and you're watching Melt. I'm Ritvika Gupta, and on the show today we'll be speaking to Sir Martin Sorrell. Anant is here with me. Hey Anant.
Hello.
Anant, the last time we spoke to Sir Martin, he did mention that 2019 will see a lot of disruptions, a lot of movements, and he was pretty optimistic about the Indian market. So why are we speaking to him today, and what has he said?
We're speaking to him simply because he's in India and it's easy to do so. Not that it's impossible to talk to Martin elsewhere, but he's here to announce his India operations. He's found a CEO for his India business, a guy called Poran Malani. So he's going to look after India. Martin stated that he's going to open offices in Bangalore, Bombay and Delhi, I think. And I wanted to get a sense of what he plans to do, why he's chosen India as one of the first markets in which he's going to operate, what it means for Indian marketers, Indian brands. So that's the conversation I had with him.
All right, so let's take a look at the conversation. Let's get ready to melt with Sir Martin Sorrell.
Hello.
How are you, Anant?
Welcome as usual to a show with us.
Good. Delighted to be here.
For the first time in all these years, I'm going to talk to you only about India.
Good hell.
Yeah, because
I know nothing about India, as you well know.
You know lots about money and you know lots about business. So that's the
Very
context.
little about India.
So it's money, business and India. So
Okay.
You're here in India and you've decided to invest in India.
Yes, well, not for the first time.
Not for the first time.
This is the third iteration, I think. You know,
Absolutely.
Sarches, WPP, and now S4.
Absolutely. So in your new avatar of S4 Capital, India is the first real outstation sort of investment by you.
Well,
So
no,
why?
not quite.
Yeah,
not quite.
Amsterdam.
I mean, to be fair, we've got, you know, we're now, it's our 15th country.
Right.
And when we did the deal with Media Monks, we said there were 3 markets we were keen on. They were in 10. And the 3 markets we wanted to go into were Japan, Germany and India. And probably in order of importance, I would have said, you know, India and Germany together and then Japan. Now, it so happens that Mighty High, which we merged with just before Christmas Eve, have opened an office in Japan, so we can tick that one off if you like.
Yeah.
India now we're opening, we're hiring Poran Malani to run the content side of our operation.
So
and
that
look
will
at our
be
media
under Media Monks.
operation. Yeah, under Media Monks. Well,
So
it's under the S4 Capital umbrella with Media Monks and Mighty Hive. And we're looking carefully at what the entry point for Mighty Hive should be. I mean, the interesting thing from a historical point of view and from a current point of view is what is that entry point? The Indian market is inherently more traditional, I would say. I mean, people get antsy when I say that. They don't like it when I say it. But
No,
I
they
think,
get hassled.
No, but
irrespective of what you say.
as you well know, the traditional media probably have a stronger position in India than in many other markets. Not all other markets, but many other markets. Right. Newspapers, free-to-air television, clearly, you know, it's more prominent. Over time, you know, the digital will become even more important. There's a bit of a sort of paradox, as we were hearing from Amitabh yesterday. Brand India is no longer Snake Charmers, or Dharma is no longer Snake Charmers. It's certainly cricket still, but it goes beyond that to tech, to pharmaceutical, to doctors, to talented people, etc. So Brand India is very, very different. And the paradox is that, you know, traditional media is strong, remains strong, but digital is also strong, and it hasn't had the impact that we've seen. It's had significant impact, but not as significant as we've seen in other markets. That is going to change. So the question, you know, in my mind is, and I think in clients' minds, is how transparent the demand will be, or how significant the demand for transparency will be. And that's where our operation, which focuses on data and content and media, purely digital, will have greater resonance. So the content offer is quite clear. We'll set up Media Monks in Bangalore and in Mumbai. We'll have a sales office or sales operation in Mumbai. And our technical nerds will be in Bangalore. So and I think then the question was, how do we position Mighty Hive? And, you know, my instinctive feeling is that we'll position it as a programmatic, transparent, in-house mixed model or out-house model, depending on the circumstances surrounding the clients. And then, the third market was Germany that we're thinking. So we're sort of 2 out of 3. We still have to do the German intrusion.
Right.
But I'm very excited about the Indian market.
That's not too far from Amsterdam, where you already are.
No. And, Amsterdam and the UK, we have a very strong office in London and in Stockholm. Those are the 3 European offices at the moment. There's a question in my mind about what we do in Eastern Europe, but certainly I think Germany, France, Italy and Spain would be areas that I would look at. Now, that would take us into about 20 countries.
Can I drag you back to India?
Yeah.
Martin? So this is a focus area for you. It always has been.
Yeah.
Even your WPP after.
Yes, and it goes back beyond that to Sarches. I mean, India for Sarches was really important. For WPP, it was very, very important. I mean, India must rank in terms of WPP, I mean, market share, probably second only to Vietnam. But in terms of absolute numbers and profitability and quality of people and quality of product and strength of brands, WPP India is really phenomenally strong. I mean, I don't quite understand why WPP management doesn't spend more time here, because the lessons. I mean, I think it's very good news that that John Seifert selected Piyush Pandey to be Ogilvy's sort of worldwide creative director.
Mark Reed was here a few weeks ago.
And in some senses that's good news for the Indian management, because it signifies it's not a problem, and therefore people have to spend a lot of time for it. But I think there are a lot of lessons that you can learn from WPP.
So how often are we going to see you in India?
Well, I've been here a couple of times in the last 3 or 4 months.
Right.
We'll see whether we might go to Goa Fest or not. I have to sort that out. But I'll be coming here about, I would say, once every 3 to 6 months to see that things are. Puran has got a lot to do here. Victor Knapp, who's our Media Monks, runs Media Monks with Wesley Tahar, has been here in the region for some time. We have Michel de Rijk, based in Singapore, who joined us from WPP, who's going to build Desford Capital in Asia.
Why would clients want to talk to you and not to WPP? Because you sold them that once upon a time.
I mean, the answer, there will be clients that continue to talk to WPP, sadly, but they do. No, listen, we're small in that, we're a startup here, and I think last time I counted WPP, we had about 15,000 people here. So the answer to your question is with a different model, right? So the model is purely digital. It doesn't have any history and legacy, and therefore, it's the advantage is it has a clean sheet of paper. The disadvantage is it doesn't have the scale. So, firstly, purely digital. Secondly, faster, better, cheaper. Less bureaucracy. In a 24/7 world, obviously we have to respond. You and I discussed this before, in a reactive and proactive way. It's rather like running a political campaign. So it's like Prime Minister Modi hired us for a campaign, but the thing is we don't have an election date.
Absolutely.
There is no election date.
It
just carries on forever. It's an iterative process. It's a totally different model to the traditional model. So what goes on here is you get data that informs the content that you serve Anant, on Netflix or whatever it happens to be. And then we serve it to you programmatically, and then we watch the results, and then we may well change the content. There are no tentpole campaigns. There are no fixed campaigns.
Right.
I've spoken to a couple of CEOs in the last week or so, and the amazing thing, it was almost as though they had been in the same room at the same time. Maybe they had been at Davos. I don't know. They both go to Davos.
Is there enough data for you to start here? In India, we have a problem with clean data, especially.
Well, there's a problem with clean data all over the world because companies make acquisitions or they have different IT systems. So getting balance through the data. I mean, there's one Asian client I'm aware of who has 90 million consumers, and he's cleaned the data with Palantir over the last 5 years and has. It couldn't be a perfect data set, but it's got a very good.
Are you going to help people clean up the data?
Yes, we are going to help them do that. Right. I mean, that's not going to be us doing it. It'll be
you'll point them somewhere.
Encouraging them to do that. But that's critically important. And it's very easy to say. I mean, I met a consulting company which consults for one of the large global banks. And that client is a massive client for the consulting company. And one of the reasons it's a massive client is the client hasn't made the decisions to take the cost, the write-offs, of cleaning up their IT systems to make them fit together. Because they've grown by acquisition, or they've just had different CTOs or CIOs who put in different systems.
Perhaps the problem which will be rife in India.
Well, it's a big problem.
Yeah.
But, what's interesting, when I look at our client list, we make great traction with the new technology companies because they are not legacy companies. They are companies that are, let's call them virgin territory.
Right.
And they're building their model from scratch. And their data is good.
Right.
And it's good stuff that we can use to inform the content and to fuel the media planning and buying.
Right. Do enough companies know the importance or the value of good, clean data? Do they even know that?
Well,
I mean, they just, because data is, again, a box that they tick somewhere.
Well, no, now, like all things, is when there is a fear factor or when there's a pressure from outside. So when they see the walled gardens, particularly Google, Facebook, and Amazon, and Tencent and Alibaba, when they look at those 5 companies, and to a lesser extent maybe Apple and Microsoft, and the software companies like Salesforce and Oracle and Adobe. But you concentrate on those 5. When you look at those and you look at the walls getting higher for the privacy reasons and for the RAN safety reasons, I mean, all good reasons, and whether it's used as a fig leaf or an excuse by the platform companies or not is really irrelevant. What's happening is those walls are getting bigger, and the clients worry about their ability to get to you and me as consumers. It's not ticking a box anymore.
Right.
It's existential. How do we influence, control the relationship? And there was a very interesting thing that happened with Walgreen Boots a few weeks ago. They were making a decision as to who they should partner with. And I think the decision came down between Google and Microsoft, actually. And they actually chose Microsoft,
right,
which was very interesting. I think they found probably Microsoft a little bit more flexible
on
in
on
their
the ownership of data.
Yes, and to build what is effectively an alternative to an Amazon healthcare program. You may be aware that Amazon, Jeff Bezos got together with Warren Buffett at Berkshire Hathaway and Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan, and they're trying to build a sort of healthcare Amazon platform where you and I
could buy whatever
have
we want.
our healthcare data, etc. Now, I think that was something that for Walgreen Boots, they had to think about how they were going to compete. And they made the decision publicly, to go with Microsoft. Now, I think there are other companies that are looking at them, and part of that is what we're talking about. How do you build a clean, unified database which you can use to establish that relationship with you or I as consumers, and build that from a content and planning point of view?
Right. Now, a lot of what you're talking about is almost CapEx in nature. And
it is CapEx.
And companies are loath to get there. I mean,
well, yeah,
especially if they don't understand the CapEx.
Yeah, but they will have no choice.
Right.
I mean, this is what you're pointing to is the short-term, long-term. And
right,
one thing is about the Indian companies, a lot of them are controlled companies,
right,
family-controlled
right,
companies. And I think, if the owners or the entrepreneurs see the importance of what we're talking about, and not just what we're talking about, but other things too,
sure,
they do them.
Right.
For example, I think a truly remarkable thing, you take Mahindra, like, a Reliance we can think, or Sunil Mittal and Airtel, or Mahindra. I mean, Mahindra in its joint venture with Ford, has built, I think it's fair to say, has taught Ford an awful lot,
right,
about the production and marketing and distribution of high volume cars.
Right.
And Mahindra is building, bought Pininfarina and is building an electric car,
right,
a super electric sports car. So there are great companies in India which are controlled, influenced, managed by very strong, high quality entrepreneur managers, and that are big companies. Reliance now, what is $100 billion? So we're talking about companies which are, even on a world stage, are significant, even if the majority of their activities in India, although they are going global.
Right.
So I think there's phenomenal opportunities. So, why am I interested in India? Most populous country on the planet in time.
I thought it was the weather.
What?
I thought you liked India because of the weather.
I like it because of the cricket. No, India obviously, it's not going to be the largest economy in the world, but it'll be one of the fastest growing. It will be the most populous. In terms of talent, people, and I've said this to you for years, if all of the WPP companies, or indeed the S4 Capital companies, were as good as our Indian company, I
so
could have
where do you
retired
see
a long time
S4
ago.
Capital India? I'm presuming it's going to be called
Well,
that.
difficult to
Is
say.
that going to be called that?
Sorry?
What's it going to be called, the India outfit?
Well, we're S4 Capital. We want to get to unified branding in time.
Yeah.
I mean, we want that. Not an easy thing to
Right,
achieve.
it isn't. Lots
but,
of paperwork,
but we want, whether it's Mighty Monks or whatever we end up calling it. At the end of the day, I want a unified P&L, and that's the way we operate. We have no fragmented earn-out companies. I mean, it's not that I don't think earn-outs is a bad way to buy companies. I think it's a very good way to buy service companies.
But
what it does,
partners
it encourages fragmentation.
Sure.
We want partners.
Right.
I've been talking to several companies in India, and they are attuned to earn-out structures. I think for this day and age, it's wrong, because what the client wants is a fully integrated, co-located, in-house. I mean, what tends to happen is also with agencies, they tend to think about incumbency.
Right.
And I think clients have sort of cottoned on, whether it's a question of taking back control, like at Brexit, whether what clients are really saying is we want control of our marketing function, we've denuded it, and it's become more important. Whether it's that, or they see the walled gardens and the importance of that strategically. What's happening is they want agencies to be much more flexible in their approach. And if in-house is the solution, which isn't the solution for everybody, because there are technology issues, how do you keep up with technology? There are talent issues, how do you keep the best talent if you're just limiting yourself to one or two categories? But if, agencies have to be much more flexible in their approach, I think.
Yeah. So I'm going to end this. I want to confirm that your email ID is sms142@gmail.
sms142@gmail.com.
Right. So now
This will unleash a torrent.
So tell me now, what kind of entrepreneurs should send you mails and pitch decks? There's a 3-minute plug you're allowed.
No, it could be less than 3 minutes. It's those people who do not want to sell out. I'm not interested in people who want to sell out.
Right.
I want people who are going to buy in.
Right.
Buy into the concept of the holy trinity of data driving content and media, and people who want a long-term relation, who are interested in long-term brand building, which is difficult in this day and age because when we're listening to Paul's speech just a few minutes ago, Paul Polman of Unilever, he referred to the average life of a company is 17 years or whatever.
Compared to 66 years.
Yes,
absolutely.
before. And so there is less. My father said to me, find an industry you like, find a company you like, build a reputation. No, not to be interviewed by Anant on television or anything, but a reputation where people sort of trust you to build the company, and then you want to start your company on and go out and do that. It's sort of changed a bit. I mean, touching, millennial, Gen Z or millennials, sort of think by flitting from flower to flower they get more experience, and that's not my thinking. I want people who want to commit to long-term brand building, whatever the difficulties are, whether it's 17 years or 67 years. That's what I'm interested in.
Perfect. And good to have you back in India.
Good to see you.
And good to see you again. Thank you.
And that was the conversation. Anant, what do you think the future looks like for S4 Capital in India?
I think more than S4 Capital is what does the future look like for companies in the same business as S4 Capital.
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing, It is interesting, but Martin referred to India being different because the legacy business, the old media, still is very strong in India. Yeah. However, if you look at the data from Group M's this year, next year, or look at the data from the Madison Pitch predictions for 2019, it just shows that digital is growing at a furious pace. So obviously the space for experts who will help marketers navigate data, privacy, content is going to be huge. So the future is fantastic for these businesses. Having said that, a lot of people jumping onto the bandwagon. So are you going to see 1 million companies being born claiming to be experts in this space? I'm afraid that will happen as well.
And what do you think the entry of S4 Capital will do to the Indian advertising ecosystem?
Well, it'll disrupt it, that's for sure. Because Sir Martin knows India really, really well. And he knows it at multiple levels. He knows Indian CEOs, he knows Indian companies, and he knows a hell of a lot of Indian professionals. He knows them personally. So there will be a whole lot of people who will look at what he's doing very closely. And there will be people who will look deeply at his focus areas and try and look at opportunities that he sees and follow the lead.
Right.
There will be people who want jobs with him. There will be people who look for investment from him. And well, he's going to be a busy man, especially in the context of Indian communicators in the next few months.
Right. Well, on that note, let's take a look at the MEL cheat sheet. That's a wrap on this episode of Melt. You can also watch all our content on our social media platforms. Our handle is Ready to Melt. And I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Goodbye.